G'day guys, JB here with the off-season finally upon us and another 82-game season finally out of the way, with no COVID hiccups, with no bubble, a full 82 games. I think it's time that I release formally my 50 greatest NBA players of all time. Some of you will agree, some of you will disagree, some will be surprised by some rankings, some won't be so surprised by some rankings, but I think you'll enjoy it. So sit back, relax, if you can in fact relax listening to lists and the sounds of my voice, and get ready for my 50 greatest NBA players of all time. At number 10, Shaquille O'Neal. Played 1992-93 to 2010-11. Four-time NBA champion, three-time Finals MVP, one-time League MVP, eight-time All-NBA first-team selection, two-time All-NBA second-team selection, three-time All-NBA third-team selection, three-time All-Defensive second-team selection, 15-time All-Star selection, three-time All-Star Game MVP, two-time scoring champion, Rookie of the Year, and All-Rookie first-team selection. Shaq finished top 10 in MVP voting 13 times, top 5 in MVP voting 8 times, top 3 in MVP voting 5 times, was a two-time runner-up MVP vote getter, and of course a one-time MVP winner. In the regular season, he played 1,207 games, averaging 34.7 minutes per game. He averaged 23.7 points per game, 10.9 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists per game, 0.6 steals per game, 2.3 blocks per game, and 2.7 turnovers per game. He shot 58.2% from the field, only 4.5% from deep, going 1 of 22 for his career from deep, and 52.7% from the free throw line. In the playoffs, he played 216 games, averaging 37.5 minutes per game. He averaged 24.3 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 0.5 steals per game, 2.1 blocks per game, and 3 turnovers per game. He shot 56.3% from the field. He did not attempt a three-point shot in his playoff career and shot 50.4% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 30 games, averaging 42.3 minutes per game. He averaged 28.8 points per game, 13.1 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game, 0.5 steals per game, 2.1 blocks per game, and 3.4 turnovers per game. He shot 60.2% from the field. Again, he did not take a three-point shot in his NBA Finals career, and he shot 48.4% from the free throw line. There have been big men in NBA history whose size has been an evident advantage, but no player has physically dominated the game with their size more than Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq became the most physically dominating offensive force in the history of the sport, with no better example being his first 5 NBA Finals appearances with Orlando and Los Angeles. O'Neal suffered through his share of shortcomings, and many cite his lack of dedication as the biggest obstacle he was never able to overcome. However, there is no denying what Shaq was able to produce despite all of this with a mix of size and skill. Speak of a player who could have been the greatest ever. All-time leaderboards don't do justice to the force that O'Neal was. While they help paint a picture, they can't construct the brush, the canvas, or the frame which make the picture possible. Offensively, O'Neal made legendary defenders like Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Kevin Garnett, and Patrick Ewing look helpless on the island of Shaq. His array of hook shots, the ability to pass, back down an opponent, his ability to spin for the lob, or drop step into the lane helped him to 2 scoring titles, the 10th most points ever in the regular season, and the 5th most playoff points ever at a superhuman rate of efficiency. O'Neal was able to kill double teams with his post passing, hitting open shooters that would thrive more in today's game than their own era. While Shaq was a good defender and capable rebounder, it speaks of the difference in energy and effort that had he truly focused on these areas of the game, the conversation surrounding his greatness would be completely different. Rarely in Shaq's career did he find himself in a bad team. Outside of his rookie season, O'Neal was teamed with one of the following players: Penny Hardaway, Kobe Bryant, Glenn Rice, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Alonzo Mourning, Dwayne Wade, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, LeBron James, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. Sure, O'Neal's age and level of play were all at varying levels, there is no denying the success that came with these teams. Excluding his 4 championship triumphs, O'Neal saw another 2 trips to the NBA Finals, 3 other trips to the conference finals, and at least another 5 trips past the first round. Wherever Shaq went, he cultivated success in one way, shape or form. However, the black mark for Shaq's career proved to be his collapsing exits in the playoffs. Before the 1999-2000 championship with Los Angeles, O'Neal-led teams were swept out of the playoffs in 5 of their 6 series losses for a record of 1-23. Following his LA years, this record, when eliminated, improved to 11-28, but an overall record of 12-51 is not something that can be ignored. It is, however, the best example of what role energy and effort plays between winning and losing. What can be highlighted is just how dominant Shaq was in his prime years and how remarkable his zenith looked during the Lakers three-peat. Drafted first overall from LSU in 1992, it was clear O'Neal should have been selected to the Dream Team at the 1992 Olympics, and that he entered the league with expectations in a centre that rivaled Lou Alcindor/Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1969. O'Neal won Rookie of the Year, delivered Orlando its first playoff berth, its first NBA Finals berth, and collected a scoring title for the Magic. He also joined Isiah Thomas in beating MJ and the Bulls in the postseason in the 1990s. While a low-ball contract offer saw him sign with LA after 4 seasons, his efforts to that point and to the All-Star Game in 1997 saw Shaq selected as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. O'Neal oozed potential and would deliver on that potential as a Laker. We've discussed the valleys of O'Neal as a Laker, his early shortcomings, and the fallout with the team and Kobe Bryant. But what about the peaks? Shaq at his peak as a Laker passed all the required tests to suggest he was on a GOAT trajectory. O'Neal kicked off the Lakers three-peat with one of the most dominant individual seasons ever. With Phil Jackson motivating him to perform like Wilt Chamberlain, 1999-2000 saw Shaq lead the league in scoring, win the league MVP, finish second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, be named co-All-Star MVP, make the All-NBA first team, and the All-Defensive second team. His Finals MVP performances rank as the most dominating on the offensive end as a centre, averaging 38 points, 16.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 1 steal and 2.7 blocks a game, while shooting 61.1% in 2000. The true impact of Shaq in these years needs to be seen to be believed, as he captured 3 straight Finals MVP awards. 2001 saw him average 33 points, 15.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 0.4 steals and 3.2 blocks a game on 57.3% shooting against Defensive Player of the Year Dikembe Mutombo, and 2002 saw him average 36.3 points, 12.3 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 0.5 steals and 3.5 blocks a game on 59.5% shooting. His last great run as a player came in his first year as a member of the Miami Heat. Finishing runner-up MVP, O'Neal immediately impacted the Heat and the young star Dwayne Wade en route to a conference finals loss before a minor role for the Heat in their 2005-06 championship proved pivotal to their success. O'Neal's final seasons would be that of a journeyman, playing for Phoenix, Cleveland and Boston. While the end of Shaq's career cannot possibly be compared to his prime years and peak years, every team he played for remained in playoff contention. Shaquille O'Neal is a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, was selected to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. His number 32 is retired by Miami, and his number 34 is retired by Los Angeles. At number 9, Hakeem Olajuwon, played 1984-85 to 2001-2. Hakeem was a 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 1-time League MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 6-time All-NBA first-team selection, 3-time All-NBA second-team selection, 3-time All-NBA third-team selection, 5-time All-Defensive first-team selection, 4-time All-Defensive second-team selection, 12-time All-Star selection, 2-time rebounding champion, 3-time blocks champion, and All-Rookie first-team selection. Hakeem finished top 10 in MVP voting 10 times, top 5 in MVP voting 5 times, was a runner-up MVP vote getter, and of course an MVP winner. In the regular season, he played 1,238 games, averaging 35.7 minutes per game. He averaged 21.8 points per game, 11.1 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, and 3.1 blocks per game on 3 turnovers per game. He shot 51.2% from the field, 20.2% from deep, and 71.2% from the free throw line. In the playoffs, he played 145 games, averaging 39.6 minutes per game. He averaged 25.9 points per game, 11.2 rebounds per game, 3.2 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, 3.3 blocks per game, and 2.9 turnovers per game. He shot 52.8% from the field, 22.2% from 3, and 71.9% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 17 games, averaging 42.5 minutes per game. He averaged 27.5 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game, 3.2 blocks per game on 3.1 turnovers per game. He shot 48.8% from the field. He was 1 of 1, so 100% from the three-point line, and 74% from the free throw line. Hakeem Olajuwon is an anomaly. The greatest international player of all time, the Dream lived out a basketball life that no one would even consider for a script.
Hakeem didn't pick up a basketball until the age of 15.
Was playing in the NCAA by the time he was 18, and at the age of 21 was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan as the number 1 pick in 1984. How good was he? No one has ever questioned Houston's decision. Olajuwon became the most skilled big man of all time, and in the process became arguably the greatest all-around centre in the history of basketball. Much like O'Neal, Hakeem was a spectacle. His offensive arsenal as a centre is the greatest in history. No big man has ever possessed the variety of moves from anywhere on the floor that Olajuwon did. The scary part is that his offensive game was the weaker of both ends of the floor. Not bad considering Hakeem retired top 10 in career points and still ranks in the top 15. Olajuwon is considered the second greatest defensive centre of all time, and in his prime had a case as the greatest ever. This wasn't just in shot blocking, which he remains the all-time leader in since it was recorded in 1973-74. Olajuwon remains the greatest centre ever at defending on ball and defending the passing lanes, retiring 6th all-time in steals and still sitting 9th over 20 years later. He remains the only player ever with 200 steals and 200 blocks in a season. His 15 seasons of 1 steal and 2 blocks a game is a mark only David Robinson is close to with 10. He has 4 of the 5 seasons of 2 steals and 3 blocks a game, with Robinson having the other. He also has one of 2 seasons in history with 2 steals and 4 blocks a game, along with Robinson. Olajuwon immediately made an impact for Houston. Standing next to Ralph Sampson in a twin tower combination, Hakeem was immediately voted an All-Star and helped turn the Rockets' record around by 19 games to make the playoffs. Losing in the first round was a good stepping stone for what was to come next. The 1985-86 Rockets made Hakeem their first option, and in doing so, posted a franchise record 51 wins en route to the NBA Finals. While they were defeated by arguably the greatest single-season team ever in the 1985-86 Celtics, Olajuwon and the Rockets were not disgraced. This was the last run of success for Houston over the next 6 seasons, as injuries and management saw a team around Hakeem that couldn't capitalise on his capabilities. Between 1986-87 and 1991-92, Houston and Olajuwon saw the playoffs 5 times and suffered 4 first-round exits. With Ralph Sampson suffering career-ending injuries and the role players around Hakeem not good enough to compete with Los Angeles, Dallas, Seattle and Portland, Olajuwon decided to do it all himself. In the regular season, Olajuwon averaged 23.2 points, 12.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 2.1 steals and 3.7 blocks a game on 50.7% shooting. In the playoffs, his series numbers were never enough. 1987, a rounded 31 points, 13 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal and 4 blocks on 60% shooting. 1988, a rounded 38 points, 17 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals and 3 blocks on 57% shooting. 1989, a rounded 25 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals and 3 blocks on 52% shooting. 1990, a rounded 19 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals and 5 blocks on 44% shooting. And 1991, a rounded 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal and 3 blocks on 58% shooting. After failing to make the playoffs in 1991-92, Hakeem had had enough. With a bad contract, his feelings towards the front office, and their desire to balance the books and not build a team around him to win, Olajuwon requested a trade. Thankfully, Olajuwon and team owner Charlie Thomas reconciled their differences. With Rudy Tomjanovich now coaching the team, Hakeem began to buy in again, seeing his overall production increase and improvement in his teammates. While the Rockets fell short against Seattle in the 1993 playoffs, Olajuwon was about to embark on the greatest repeat championship run ever. 1993-94 saw Hakeem finish third in scoring, sixth in rebounds, and second in blocks en route to both the NBA's MVP and Defensive Player of the Year awards. Only Michael Jordan before him and Giannis Antetokounmpo since have achieved this. Olajuwon in the playoffs led the Rockets past Clyde Drexler and Portland in round 1, Charles Barkley and Phoenix in round 2, and Karl Malone and Utah in the conference finals, before a 7-game battle saw him claim Houston's first championship against Patrick Ewing and New York. Olajuwon will be named Finals MVP and remains the only player to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year and Finals MVP in the same season. 1994-95 saw the Rockets start out shaky before Clyde Drexler was traded to Houston. Finishing as the 6th seed, Olajuwon led the Rockets through the playoffs without any home court advantage to repeat as champions. Round 1 saw them defeat the 60-win Jazz with Karl Malone. Round 2 saw them rally from 3-1 down to defeat the 59-win Suns with Charles Barkley. Round 3 saw Olajuwon on a personal vendetta against league MVP David Robinson, leading Houston past the 62-win Spurs. The NBA Finals saw a matchup against scoring champions Shaquille O'Neal and the 57-win Magic, who the Rockets would sweep. Olajuwon was the Finals MVP once again and remains the only player to lead back-to-back championships without another All-Star teammate in either season. Olajuwon remained a premier centre through to the end of 1996-97, when a conference finals elimination at the hand of the Utah Jazz all but ended the championship dreams of the Rockets going forward. Multiple super team builds with the likes of Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen never produced the desired results. Olajuwon would play out his contract to the end of the 2000-2001 season. Turning down a final contract offer, Olajuwon played his final season with Toronto before calling time on his historic career. Hakeem Olajuwon is a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, was selected to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams, and his number 34 is retired by Houston. At number 8, Magic Johnson. Played 1979-80 to 1995-96. Magic was a 5-time NBA champion, 3-time Finals MVP, 3-time League MVP, 9-time All-NBA first-team selection, 1-time All-NBA second-team selection, 12-time All-Star selection, 2-time All-Star Game MVP, 4-time assist champion, 2-time steals champion, and all-rookie first-team selection. Magic finished top 10 in MVP voting 10 times, top 3 in MVP voting 9 times, was a 2-time runner-up MVP vote getter, and of course a 3-time MVP winner. In the regular season, he played 906 games, averaging 36.7 minutes per game. He averaged 19.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, 11.2 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game, 0.4 blocks per game, on 3.9 turnovers per game. He shot 52% from the field, 30.3% from deep, and 84.8% from the free throw line. In the playoffs, he played 190 games, averaging 39.7 minutes per game. He averaged 19.5 points per game, 7.7 rebounds per game, 12.3 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game, 0.3 blocks per game, on 3.7 turnovers per game. He shot 50.6% from the field, 24.1% from deep, and 83.8% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 50 games, averaging 40.9 minutes per game. He averaged 19.4 points per game, 7.9 rebounds per game, 11.7 assists per game, 2 steals per game, 0.3 blocks per game, and 3.8 turnovers per game. He shot 51.6% from the field, 23.7% from deep, and 87.4% from the free throw line. The greatest point guard of all time, the greatest career as a Laker of all time, and the most revolutionary size for position player of all time. No 3 titles epitomise what Magic Johnson as a player was. As far as his meaning to the league, he and a couple of other guys to come on my list had an impact on the game that saw it reach a global audience and begin an ascension to heights that it hadn't seen before and hasn't seen since. Moreover, no one developed a greater highlight reel without scoring the basketball than Magic Johnson, thanks to his court vision that has never been rivalled. Magic's career is so brief that to see him on a leaderboard it doesn't do him justice. Most of the players inside the top 10 are all players you must see to believe. But make no mistake, the numbers back up the eye test. Magic leads all point guards in league history in MVP award wins. He retired as the only player ever with 10,000 career assists. He retired as the all-time leader in career assists in both the regular season and playoffs, and while he now sits 6th all-time in the regular season, he still sits over 400 assists clear in the playoffs. His career assists per game average in both the regular season and playoffs remain league records. And as far as stuffing the stat sheet, Magic sits 3rd all-time in career triple-doubles in the regular season and is the all-time playoff leader. Magic's passing game was, well, magic. There was never a situation where Johnson wasn't able to find a teammate for an easy basket. His abilities with the ball in hand epitomised the Showtime Lakers of the 1980s. To be honest, there are no words or sentences adequate enough for description. Offensively, when Magic was looking to score, he ran the floor at size as well as any player ever, with the ability to finish at the rim. Magic was able to take smaller opponents off the dribble and back them down to the post using his size, and by the end of his career had developed a half-set three-point shot that fell with efficiency. Magic's defence was a product of the team rather than skill, but that doesn't take away from his 2 steals titles. From the time Johnson entered the league to his first retirement, he was a superstar. Not just because of his play style, but his ability to deliver. While not winning Rookie of the Year, his performance in Game 6 of the 1980 Finals against the 76ers saw him named Finals MVP. This award was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's before going down with injury in Game 5 of the series. "Never fear, Magic is here," said Johnson as they travelled to Philadelphia to claim victory. He starts at centre, plays forward and guard, perfectly summarised his game, posting 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals and a block on 60.9% shooting and a perfect 14 of 14 from the line. Magic remains the only rookie ever to win Finals MVP. 1980-81 saw Johnson and the Lakers eliminated in the first round against Houston after an injury-riddled season saw Magic below his best. This was the perfect chance for Larry Bird and the Celtics to capture their first title and set about the not if, but when will these two face off in the finals. Johnson was back in 1981-82 as the Lakers again found themselves matched up with the 76ers in the championship round, with Magic again claiming Finals MVP honours. Magic and the Lakers over the next 2 seasons would ride a roller coaster of form. Magic finished top 3 in MVP voting and made All-NBA first team for the next 9 seasons. However, as a team, the Lakers came up short, and Johnson would almost undo all of his great work. 1982-83 saw them swept by Philadelphia as Moses Malone capped off one of the best regular seasons of all time, and in the first of 3 matchups against Boston, the Celtics and Bird would claim a tough 7-game series in 1983-84. Johnson's last 3 games in the sweeping loss to Philadelphia saw him shoot a pedestrian 17 of 47 and commit 21 turnovers. Against Boston, Magic earned the nickname Tragic due to poor execution down the stretch in key games that many contribute as the leading factor to the series defeat. Come 1984-85, the Lakers were hungry for revenge. In a rematch with Boston, Magic returned to form, guiding Los Angeles back to championship success. While Kareem would turn back the clock and claim Finals MVP honours, Johnson was superb in feeding him the ball and eating off his leftovers. It looked like a three-peat of appearances in the NBA Finals for the Lakers and the Celtics come 1985-86, but a conference final defeat against Houston ended it. This was the series that saw the Lakers handed over as Magic's team as Kareem reduced his role. 1986-87 to 1990-91 saw Magic as the clear leader of the team. Johnson won his 3 MVP awards in 1986-87, 1988-89 and 1989-90. The Lakers claimed back-to-back titles in 1987 and 1988 and appeared in the NBA Finals every season besides 1989-90. Magic averaged a rounded 22 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, 2 steals on 50% shooting in the regular season, and 21 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists and 2 steals on 49.6% in the playoffs during this time. He was showing no signs of slowing down until his HIV diagnosis. Magic's career and life seemed to be over. He returned for the 1992 All-Star Game and claimed MVP honours and played a leading role for the Dream Team in capturing gold at the Barcelona Olympics, but his career was tragically cut short. He would return for 32 games in 1995-96, but one must wonder what his career would have looked like had he been able to play it out properly. Magic Johnson is a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, was selected to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams, and his number 32 is retired by Los Angeles. At number 7, Larry Bird. Played 1979-80 to 1991-92. Bird was a 3-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 3-time League MVP, 9-time All-NBA First Team selection, 1-time All-NBA Second Team selection, 3-time All-Defensive Second Team selection, 12-time All-Star selection, 1-time All-Star MVP, Rookie of the Year, and All-Rookie First Team selection. Larry Bird finished top 10 in MVP voting 11 times, top 5 in MVP voting 9 times, top 3 in MVP voting 8 times, was a 4-time runner-up MVP vote-getter, and of course a 3-time MVP winner. In the regular season, he played 897 games, averaging 38.4 minutes per game. He averaged 24.3 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 6.3 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, 0.8 blocks per game, and 3.1 turnovers per game. He shot 49.6% from the field, 37.6% from deep, and 88.6% from the free throw line. In the playoffs, he played 164 games, averaging 42 minutes per game. He averaged 23.8 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, 1.8 steals per game, 0.9 blocks per game, and 3.1 turnovers per game. He shot 47.2% from the field, 32.1% from deep, and 89% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 31 games, averaging 42.8 minutes per game. He averaged 23.1 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game, 2 steals per game, 0.8 blocks per game, and 2.9 turnovers per game. He shot 45.8% from the field, 42.2% from deep, and 87.2% from the free throw line. There may be no player that defied his profile more than Larry Bird. A tall, slightly bigger white guy who appeared to be slow, lacking athletic ability, and couldn't jump. While these takes may very well be true, Bird managed to have an NBA career that 99.99% of league history wished they could have had. Bird became a saviour not only for Boston following a slump, but for the NBA as well, dominating the East Coast while his rival and the other half of this saving duo, Magic Johnson, dominated the West Coast. Bird's career was brief, but like many players on this list with less than 1,000 games, his run in the league was almost permanently at the head of the table. No player in history used their IQ to get the most out of themselves more than Larry Bird. As outlined previously, Bird was as tall as LeBron James and heavy set, but was far from the athlete James has shown himself to be. Instead, Bird outthought his opponent's every move and thought ahead of the opposing coach, to the point where he would famously tell his opponents what he was going to do and what little his opponents could do about it. A 6'9" small forward that played like an outside-in power forward, Bird could score, shoot, rebound and pass with elite level efficiency. Need Larry to deliver in a clutch game? 30 points is a certainty. Looking for a big basket? Bird could shoot from anywhere and any way on the floor. Struggling to get possession? Bird averaged double-digit rebounds for a playing career, with most of it next to Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. And is the team lacking momentum? Well, Bird had the ability to pass as well as any point guard of all time. All of this with low turnovers and the ability to shoot 50, 40, 90 night after night, season after season. Much like Magic Johnson, Bird doesn't sit high on many career leaderboards, but the numbers he did post certainly reflected his play and complement a highlight reel that any player would die to have. The best measurement of Bird's career is his immediate impact on the league and the almost decade-long run. Bird, from his rookie season, where he won Rookie of the Year, to the end of the 1988 Eastern Conference Finals, Larry was selected to 9 consecutive All-NBA first teams. At worst, this showed Bird as the best forward in the league. But as an individual, Bird won 3 straight MVP awards from 1983-84 to 1985-86 and remains the last man to three-peat as an MVP. finished runner-up, a record tying 4 times, including 3 straight from 1980-81 to 1982-83, finished 3rd in 1986-87 and 4th as a rookie. It wasn't by accident or circumstance that Bird achieved all of this. He was just that good. In Bird, the Celtics had a player who was going to turn the fortunes of the franchise around immediately. Red Auerbach recognised this, taking Larry's rights in the 1978 draft as the 6th pick, some 18 months before his debut. 1978-79 saw the Celtics win 29 games and finish second last across the entire league. In Bird's rookie season, the Celtics would improve by 32 games to 61 wins, the best record in the NBA, and a conference finals berth. The following season, Bird would lead the Celtics to championship success and, despite not winning finals MVP, would provide a serviceable battle with Moses Malone on the glass. During his 9 straight All-NBA first-team years, Bird would lead Boston to at least the conference finals 8 out of 9 occasions, making it to the second round in 1982-83. The first battle in the narrative of the 1980s happened in the 1984 NBA Finals. Boston versus Los Angeles, Celtics versus the Lakers, Bird versus Magic. The rivalry that eventually stemmed into a friendship started back in the 1979 NCAA Final, but would begin to heat up in the 1984 Finals. For Larry, things could not have gone better, and for Magic, things couldn't have gone worse. Bird won the first of his 3 MVP awards and the first of his 2 Finals MVP awards in one of the best NBA Finals series of all time. Magic would return serve in 1985 and eventually take the Finals series of the 2-1 in 1987, but Bird posted a 3-peat of MVP awards that included 2 championships and 2 Finals MVP awards. Bird's peak from 1984 to 86 saw him average around 26 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals and 1 block a game on 50, 39, 89 shooting splits in the regular season, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals and 1 block a game on 50, 38, 89 shooting splits in the playoffs, and 25 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals and 1 block a game on 47, 41 and 87 shooting splits in the finals. Bird would have 3 more seasons of wonder and joy. 1986-87 saw the final battle with Magic Johnson in the NBA Finals, where Magic would snatch control of the league officially from Bird with an MVP Finals MVP double as the Lakers defeated the Celtics. Bird returned the following season with a runner-up MVP award to Michael Jordan, posting a career high in scoring at 29.9 points per game and recording back-to-back 50, 40, 90 shooting seasons. Larry then began to truly show the effects of his debilitating back injuries, playing just 6 games to end the 1980s. His last Bird-esque season came in 1989-90, before his production petered out. His last hurrah would be a gold medal at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics as a member of the Dream Team before retiring. Post-playing career, Bird would win NBA Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year, proving his IQ and ability to think the game extended beyond the parquet floor of the Boston Garden. Larry Bird is a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, was selected to both the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams, and his number 33 is retired by Boston. At number 6, Tim Duncan. Played 1997-98 to 2015-16. Duncan was a 5-time NBA champion, a 3-time Finals MVP, 2-time League MVP, 10-time All-NBA first-team selection, 3-time All-NBA second-team selection, 2-time All-NBA third-team selection, 8-time All-Defensive first-team selection, 7-time All-Defensive second-team selection, 15-time All-Star selection, 1-time All-Star MVP, Rookie of the Year, and All-Rookie first-team selection. Duncan finished top 10 in MVP voting 13 times, top 5 in MVP voting 9 times, top 3 in MVP voting 3 times, was a 2-time runner-up MVP, and of course a 2-time MVP winner. In the regular season, he played 1,392 games, averaging 34 minutes per game. He averaged 19 points per game, 10.8 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, 0.7 steals per game, 2.2 blocks per game, and 2.4 turnovers per game. He shot 50.6% from the field, 17.9% from deep, and 69.6% from the stripe. In the playoffs, he played 251 games, averaging 37.3 minutes per game. He averaged 20.6 points per game, 11.4 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, 0.7 steals per game, 2.3 blocks per game, and 2.5 turnovers per game. He shot 50.1% from the field, 14.3% from deep, and 68.9% from the free throw line. In the NBA Finals, he played 34 games, averaging 39.6 minutes per game. He averaged 20.8 points per game, 13.3 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists per game, 0.8 steals per game, 2.4 blocks per game, and 2.8 turnovers per game. He shot 48.5% from the field. He did not make a three-point shot in the NBA Finals and shot 71.6% from the free throw line. Fundamental and methodical. Cool, calm, and collected. There has never been a less emotional superstar leader in NBA history than Tim Duncan. He was boring. He wasn't flashy, but that was the key to Duncan's success. He entered the league and assumed leadership at San Antonio. He delivered the Spurs a level of success as a franchise in both making the playoffs and winning championships that they hadn't seen before, haven't seen since, and that stacks up with the best run of any dynasty in league history. He did it on both ends of the floor for a length of time that may never be replicated again, but he's never talked about in the same breath as any of his contemporaries. Style over substance sells tickets. Substance over style brings success. And success was exactly what Tim Duncan was all about. Duncan was destined to be an Olympic swimmer until his home in the Virgin Islands was hit with a hurricane and destroyed the only Olympic-sized pool they had. Not wanting to swim in the ocean, he picked up a basketball in high school and by the time he left college, was the number one pick. Many saw Duncan as a player who could have left school as the first pick in the draft in both 1995 and 1996, but after promising his mother he would finish school, he graduated at the end of his senior year and then took on the NBA. Timmy is the best example of the last 25 years of what a full college career can do for a player, developing into a ready-made pro, and by the end of his rookie season, was one of the 5 best players in the league. Duncan's first All-NBA first team came with Michael Jordan's last MVP in 1998, and his last All-NBA first team came alongside LeBron's last MVP in 2013. This should draw a great picture of Duncan's longevity and dominance on the game. If it doesn't, these numbers and facts should help. Duncan is the only player in league history with 15 selections to both the All-NBA, All-Defensive and All-Star teams. He is the all-time leader in all defensive selections with 15, 3 ahead of the next player. He is the only player to ever record 100 win shares on both the offensive and defensive ends of the floor. He is the all-time playoff leader in blocked shots. He holds the single postseason record for win shares with 5.9 in 2003. He is second to Bill Russell in defensive win shares. He and LeBron James are the only players to be selected to the All-NBA first team in 3 different decades. He is third in career playoff rebounds, career playoff win shares, playoff games, and career regular season defensive rating. He sits in the top 5 in regular season blocks. He sits in the top 10 for career playoff points, regular season rebounds, playoff blocks per game, playoff player efficiency rating, and regular season win shares. There is a reason Duncan was a back-to-back MVP, and he very well could have had more. Duncan's first and last selections to the All-NBA, All-Defensive and All-Star teams all occurred both in 1997-98 and 2014-15. In all but his last season, Duncan was a top 15 player for his career, a genuine two-way player. On top of his individual success, Timmy cultivated a disciplined team that saw the Spurs win 50 games in every season besides the lockout season of 1999. And for some perspective on 1999, the Spurs posted a winning percentage of 74%, a 60-win pace in a full season. Some claim Duncan's teammates and coach are the reason for his success, but the facts are like this. David Robinson was a great individual with no team success without Duncan. Ginobili and Parker never played long enough without Duncan, and Kawhi Leonard showed he couldn't shoulder the load of expectation that Duncan left behind. As for Popovich, a mix of teams following Duncan delivered when another top 50 player was on the team, but his ability to coach a team without that has proven difficult. Duncan's ability to anchor the Spurs to the best defensive run ever besides that Celtics dynasty, while adapting to the change in offensive rules, is unmatched. In Timmy's 19 seasons, the Spurs finished top 10 in defensive rating 18 times, top 5 in defensive rating 16 times, top 3 in defensive rating 15 times, top 2 in defensive rating 11 times, and with the number 1 rated defence 6 times. And when you look at Duncan's defensive ratings, defensive win shares, and defensive numbers, there is a clear correlation to this success. Duncan is the greatest defender the game has seen since Bill Russell, and should have won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. In all 5 championship seasons, San Antonio finished top 3 in defensive rating. Duncan, in all 5 seasons himself, ranked top 5 in the league in defensive rating and finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 1st and 9th across the league in defensive win shares. And what about the championships? Duncan led 5 title teams, something that only Michael Jordan, Bill Russell and George Mikan have also done. Duncan's 3 finals MVP awards were well deserved, and a case can be made that based on his importance in the 2007 finals and his consistency in the 2014 finals, that Duncan could have won all 5 finals MVP awards. His crowning achievement was the 2002-03 season. Winning his 2nd MVP and carrying the Spurs to 60 wins as the only All-Star, Duncan dominated the playoffs in a manner that contends as the best postseason ever. His dominance of Amari Stoudemire, Shaquille O'Neal and Dirk Nowitzki in the conference finals was sensational, but the finals proved to be his best work, capping off a run that is now forgotten about. A rounded 24 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal and 5 blocks a game across 6 games, including a 20, 20 and 10 triple-double with 8 blocks to almost record the only quadruple-double in NBA Finals history, truly showed the superstar Tim he was. Tim Duncan is a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, was selected to the NBA's 75th anniversary team, and his number 21 is retired by San Antonio.